Together we ride.
Season 4!
Season 4 of Real Talk with me, Emma G.
And Dinah,
where we will be coming at you every week with real, honest, authentic conversations with executives and healers,
creatives and entrepreneurs
about real conversations, authenticity, and what mental health sounds like.
Yes, raising the vibration one conversation at a time.
Every Monday, tune in here live. Welcome back, everybody. Happy Monday. Super excited to be back with another conversation with a DC local, DMV local, for those who are not here in the DC area. That stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia, not the Department of Motor Vehicles, just to clarify.
That was a nice intro.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I put that together myself.
First time I've seen it.
Oh, there we go. So today's guest, super pumped. I know that Dinah is still away, but that makes kind of today's episode a little bit, I don't know, special in my view, because today's guest is a little bit unorthodox. It is my husband. However, he is more than just my husband, obviously. He is an author. He is a mentor, a coach, a third-degree black belt in Krav Maga, and the owner of Krav Maga CDK, DJ Stevens. How are you doing?
What's going on?
So
people
super.
do their husbands all the time, actually.
They do. But like it's. I don't know. This is a new thing for me,
In their
obviously.
lives.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll get to your podcast eventually.
Especially when they're superstars.
Yeah. So for those who are listening or watching, I know that obviously people who are in my hemisphere know a little bit about Krav Maga, but there is a little bit of, I think, I don't know, mind farting a little bit when it comes to the whole world of self-defense, the whole world of Krav Maga. Can you open up with a little bit more about who you are, what Krav Maga is, and why you do it?
Okay. DJ Stevens, and I have a Krav Maga school in Maryland, Bethesda, Maryland. Krav Maga is, I always say, it is a martial art. It's more martial, less art.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to turn people into UFC fighters. We just want to give them the tools to defend themselves if ever they had to.
Mm-hmm.
We're also big on fitness. I think the more you can, the better in shape you are, the better you can do everything, including
Mm-hmm.
defend yourself. So we want to get you in shape and give you the skill of being able to protect yourself. Krav Maga is an Israeli martial art. It's the official unarmed combat system for the IDF. And it is designed for the person who doesn't have a lot of time.
Mm.
So and we don't want to be in a 10-minute fight. We don't want to be in a 10-second fight. We want to get in and we want to get out. So people, especially nowadays, don't have a lot of time, or at least don't want to take a lot of time to train in something like self-defense. So it's based on instinctive movements, things that you can recall more easily in stress. It alleviates things like fine motor skills. We want to use big motor skills because your fine motor skills will go out the window anyway.
Yeah.
If you have to defend yourself. So that's pretty much what Krav Maga is. That's what you asked me.
That's a great answer.
Okay.
That was good. I mean, but so like when we talk about Krav Maga or self-defense in general, I think, obviously you and I met through Krav Maga. And, I started working with you and helping, spread the word about Krav Maga. And one of the things that I found quite often, and you found quite often, is the people who come in to do self-defense training, to your point, are not coming to necessarily be UFC fighters. It's because they're trying to find that thing to help them feel more confident or to help them to overcome maybe some traumas in their life or whatever. Can you speak a little bit to how that helps, how Krav Maga training actually helps the everyday individual become the best version of themselves?
But yeah, it's not about just about kicking and punching.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own journey. Everybody comes in for their own reason. As a matter of fact, I think I was just talking about this the other day. I went on to my database and I was trying to, I don't know what I was doing. I was looking at some old students or something like that. And with my database, I put up all of my former students. So I had like 3,000 former students, that I've taught, and that's just in the last 10 years. It's probably been more than that because I've been teaching for a long time. And out of all of those students, probably maybe three to five that I can think of has had to use what I had to teach them. So it's they haven't had to use it physically, but hundreds have come by and said how it touched their lives in other kind of ways. Maybe it gave them more confidence, not just in being able to defend themselves, but just in how they walk, how they handle business. Because Krav Maga is about principles. For me, it's a religion, like any other religion. Of course, it has flaws, but it's a faith that I have. It's a faith in the principles, about overcoming adversity, about always moving forward, about having a winning mindset. And those principles it can be adapted to anything, whether it's an MMA fight, whether it's an office situation, whether it's walking down the street, whether it's in a relationship. The principles of Krav Maga it's like a religion to me. And anytime you get into a religion, a good religion, that's important.
Right.
Anytime you get into a good religion or a good faith, it changes people. People who adopt a faith, religion, faith, however you want to say it, it changes their whole life. People who get into Christianity, change their whole life. People get into Krav Maga. I look at Krav Maga, like, to me, it's a religion. So that's the way it changes people's lives,
right.
By the principles, not just by what you're doing, but your mindset and what you're doing,
so
how you're doing it.
I love that, obviously.
Of course you do.
Obviously. The spiritual aspect, I think, is something that people don't often connect with self-defense. In fact, there have been, people, or I've had conversations with people who simply say that the idea of violence goes against everything they believe when it comes to being like Christ or being like Buddha or whatever. But obviously, talking about the principles, you need, violence is never the answer unless it's the only answer, right? How do the principles, like, what are the principles that you sort of ascribe to, and how can we empower the everyday individual to recognize and unleash that part of themselves?
Well, first of all, spiritual is a different thing. Some people say different when they say spiritual. Spiritual, I don't even know the definition of spiritual.
Well,
but when I think it could be like a belief system that somebody has. I'm guessing, so, like, you can be spiritual. I don't know. It's I don't really. If you talk about the mindset behind it when you say spiritual,
I'm talking about in terms of when you relate self-defense to like a religion or a belief system. Sure, let's talk about spirituality in that context. However, there are obviously people who are, have an actual religion that feel that might be against. So, what are the principles how does that counter?
Well, like a couple of principles of Krav Maga do, like for example, simultaneous counter strike, attacking and counter at the same time. So we want to block an incoming attack, and we want to counterattack at the same time, or at least immediately afterwards. So that can apply to anything. You don't just want to stop things from happening. You want to stop things from happening. You want to find out why it happened, and you want to stop it from happening again. So once it's coming, you got to stop the initial attack, and then you got to quickly figure out how can I stop the next one happening. So we call that simultaneous counter. always move forward whenever possible. If you move back, you're only moving backwards so you can move forward. Kind of take one step back and take two steps forward.
That's a
It's
beautiful
all about
metaphor for
going
life.
forward, 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 forward.
Right.
So there's I mean, several principles, of fighting, of combat that Krav Maga adapts. Not saying other people don't have it, but we kind of live by it. When we look at our techniques and stuff like that, if they don't align with our principles, most of the time we dump it if we can.
Okay.
If it needs, like for example, I have, I have a short extension span, so
do most people these days.
yeah. Okay, well, mine's worse.
Okay.
So if it's more than 4 moves, I can't. You got to get me in. If I need to do 3 moves, and then that's it. If I got to do 5 or 6 or 7 moves, then it's difficult for me. So that's why I needed to be like, I got a short. I forgot what you asked me. Yeah, quick. I got a short expensive span. What was it? Oh, principles. Yeah.
Right.
So it had to be short. It's got to be. A principle has to be simplicity. So that's another principle. So these are just different principles that we have, and I don't think they're written down. We
just pass through time.
Yeah, just pass through time. You get different manuals. Every time I read a different Krav Maga book, I learn some different principles. Oh, I didn't even know about that principle.
Right.
It's just passed down. Different organizations got their principles and stuff like that. But I've never seen a book that says, here's all the principles. We have this many principles. It's just it's like the books of the Bible. They took some out, put some in, took some out, put some in. But they do got 10 commandments written down. So anyway.
So when it comes to training wise, obviously community is a huge thing at Krav Maga CDK, and you're very emphatic about that, and as well as excellence in training and excellence in customer service. When it comes to the wide diaspora of students that you teach, how does Krav Maga work when it comes to both men and women, teenagers versus adults, more experienced adults compared to younger adults? Like, how does that work from your 20 plus years of teaching?
Well, I mean, the people that come in to take Krav Maga, maybe any self-defense system, but mostly I can speak of as Krav Maga.
Okay.
I mean, you get people that are younger. You get people that younger, meaning like 12, 13, 14.
Sure.
You get people that are older, like 61, 62, 63, and you get everything in between. You get black folks, you get white folks, you get Chinese folks, you get Spanish folks. Now, of course, we get Jewish folks because the background is Jewish. We get Christians, we get Muslims. It attracts anybody that wants to learn how to defend themselves in a quick amount of way. And what I do at CDK is I interview everybody before they come in.
Why?
Because I want to make sure. I had a friend of mine just told me this. He has a school in Dallas, and I like the way he put it. He has 350 students, and he does the same thing I do. He sits down, he talks to everybody, and the way he put it was, he said, I want to make sure that that I have. If I don't, I would rather. I want to make sure that you don't mess it up for the other 350.
Right. Don't be bad apple.
Yeah.
Right.
So like most people, they have people come in and maybe they take a class or trial, whatever. If they like the class, they join. Well, if that person is an a-hole, if that person has a bad demeanor,
right.
Or something like that, now they destroyed their experience for everybody else on the floor. Sure. Well, all money ain't good money. So if you found that out at the beginning, then you can say, it's like a first date.
Right.
So when you come in, if you go on a first date with somebody, you're making a mistake if you go to somewhere where go to the movies or something like that. Although I like the movies, where y'all not talking, because now you're gonna go on a second date where you could have found out on the first date that you shouldn't have went on that second date.
Right.
Well, when people come in to take a class, that's a first date, but you ain't talked to them. So now you signed them up. Okay. Now signing them up is like getting married after the first date.
Ooh, okay.
So
There's TV shows about that.
Yeah. So now you signed them up. Now you didn't even have a conversation with them, and you haven't have anything with them. So how we have a good community is we find out is if when you come in the door, if you're going to be a good part of the community, and if you're not going to be a good part of the community, it's we got to have a gatekeeper, which could be myself or whoever is interviewing them. A good gatekeeper to make sure that you are a good fit for the community. Everybody said they have a good community, but if you're not doing a process to have a good community, then you have a good community by luck.
Right. And luck is never a good strategy.
Yeah, you just happen to have a good community. And do you really have a good community, or do you have 200 students and 10 of them hang out?
Right.
And the other 90 you don't even talk to.
Gotcha.
That's not really a good community. That's a clique.
Right.
That's a clique inside of a group.
So I want to talk
That
about.
was long winded. I should probably cut that a little short.
No, I like it. That's good. Long is good.
Can you edit these?
No.
Oh,
So let's talk about your book. You have 2 books. The first one is Self-Defense, Why Even Bother? And the second is Jiu-Jitsu, Why Even Bother? And you're a 3rd-degree black belt. Why did you do a book on Jiu-Jitsu before you did one on Krav Maga? And and I say that because your first book, you talk about the wide diaspora of different self-defense trainings and experiences you've had. You're a secondary, you're a black belt in Taekwondo. You have done Aikido, Hapkido. You've done boxing. You've done so many things. Tell us about that, your experience, and why you settled on Krav. And
well, that's a lot of questions.
I know. I have questions.
All right. So it's all right. Why did I do the book on jiu-jitsu? I don't know. First, I didn't really think about it. I just started writing.
Okay.
And because I do jiu-jitsu now, every day, that was kind of on my mind.
All right.
Still on my mind. So I do jiu-jitsu, a lot. And the Krav Maga book is coming. So it's Self-Defense, Why Even Bother? That's the name of my first book. And then I was going to do jiu-jitsu for self-defense, why even bother? Boxing for self-defense, why even bother? And Krav Maga for self-defense, why even bother? Oh, and Taekwondo for self-defense, why even bother? Because those are the 3 things that I had specialized in, or 4 things or 5 things. Anyway, the Krav Maga was supposed to be is the more intensive one, because that's what that's my religion. That's what my faith. That's what I believe. So that's the big boy. Okay. So I was going to say that for last, save the best for last. Not saying that Krav Maga is better than the rest. I'm saying save the one that I am the most informed in for last. So that's kind of how that happened. But once I pick up the piece of paper and pen and start writing, I don't know what's going to come out. It may end up being the next one may be Krav Maga. Right. The next one might be boxing. The next one may be fitness for self-defense. Why even bother? That's actually a good one. I didn't think about that too. Fitness for self-defense.
I like that.
So I don't know what's going to happen when I put pen to paper.
Right. What inspired you to write the books in the first place?
My YouTube video. Well, I always wanted to write a book. So my first passion was writing before I did anything. My first passion was writing. I used to write a lot, poems. I wrote a book. It's still sitting there, and it's been there for years. It's called Like a Jungle Sometimes,
Like a jungle sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was an old song called Like a Jungle Sometimes. I mean, if you wonder how I keep from going. So I wrote a book called Like a Jungle Sometimes. It's about my old neighborhood experiences.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
never really did anything with it. It's just still sitting there. I hope like a whole bunch of poems, never really did anything with it. It's just still sitting there.
Okay.
So my first passion was writing.
Right.
But as I was writing, so back in my neighborhood, you know, where I used to live, right, you know, my room was right outside over top of an alley.
Okay.
And the alley is where everybody played.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we back in the day, we used to play in the alley. Everybody played in the alley. Every
Yeah.
neighborhood had their alley. And we used to play in the alley. So as I'm writing, everybody's playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so that's exciting. And I'm like, man, I'm missing out on our excitement. So I stopped writing. I wanted to go out and play in the alley. That's how I stopped writing.
Interesting.
You know,
Okay.
and you know, and then I started fighting in the alley. So that's how I got in the fight. You know, so fast forward, that's what brought me back to, you know, wanting to write.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know, one day I just put pen to paper and started writing, which is how I wrote my first book. I just was writing something and then I was like, oh, that sounds good. And before you know, I said, oh shit, you know, oh yeah, and then you wrote a book.
I did.
Yeah. I said, I can't have her writing stuff and I ain't writing nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, you wrote a book. I was like, oh damn, oh, we writing books now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I said that's what I have. I think you wrote yours first.
Maybe. I will neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah. That's how that happened.
So okay. So tell me about you know, fighting in the alley. Your dad was a boxer, a Golden Gloves boxing champion. And you know, you talked about this in your first book, Self Defense Why Even Bother. You weren't just fighting in the alley, you were teaching your friends how to channel their emotions through boxing.
Well, I didn't know about channeling emotions back then.
Well, you subconsciously were doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you talk to that a
Well,
little
a little bit. Maybe. Yeah, maybe I knew about channeling emotions. I just didn't call it channeling emotions.
Okay, channeling aggression,
Yeah.
helping people to understand that when there are better ways to spend their time than causing trouble.
Yeah, I was doing that because
Right.
my father taught me, and I love teaching.
Mm.
You know, I like teaching more. I like doing anything. And he would teach me, and then I would go and teach them.
Right.
And a couple of them, you know, instead of doing other stuff, would come to my house and we would go through drills and stuff like that. So
Right.
instead of doing other stuff they can be doing, they come here. So before you know it, I had like 4 or 5, you know, the youngins.
Right.
They'd be in the garage. I'm teaching them how to punch and stuff like that or whatever. And then if they got in some trouble, then their parents, you know, they got in trouble. Their parents come, hey, you know, Danny in trouble, or you know, Rylan in trouble, and then I became their like big brother.
Right.
You know, that's like, you know, that's like Danny. You know,
Yeah,
we talked about, you know. So I just became the, you know, if you wanted to learn how to fight, you came to the garage, and then I showed you some stuff.
Mm.
So that's how I started teaching.
Right.
And that was years ago.
Couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple. So obviously now we've covered the spiritual aspect, we've covered the mental aspect and the physical aspect and the social aspect. What about the emotional aspect of self-defense? Because, you know, to play stereotypical here, we have a lot of women in the world who are walking around fearful a lot of the time for whatever reason. We have a lot of men as well, not fearful as much, but maybe just concerned about safety of their families specifically. You know, how does what you do, what's your hope when it comes to helping those people?
Well, you gotta believe in yourself.
Hmm.
You know, and you're gonna be scared, you know, but you got to be able to face your fear. You know, they say fear is false evidence appearing real. Well, that ain't true with self-defense because it is real. It's not false.
Right.
You know, it's something that you should be concerned with.
Right.
And, you know, both women and men are, you know, rightfully fearful. You know, they should be. You know, if you on certain areas and certain times doing certain things, you should be fearful.
Sure.
You know, now that doesn't mean you're frozen in fear. That means if you know, okay, well, first of all, try not to be in those situations, but just doing stuff that you're supposed to be, being aware, knowing that something can happen, and if something happened, you have a couple of answers, some tools in your toolbox to use. Those things are important. It's important for men and it's important for women. And when somebody come and tell me they ain't scared at all, then I'm like, damn, you I don't know, you oblivious. They're in denial. No, it's never going to happen. Nothing to be scared of. No, it's not. It is something to be scared of. It's you just can't be frozen in that fear. You got to be able to move. And Krav Maga training helps you to know what to do.
Sure.
So now you're moving a little different. You're comfortable being uncomfortable.
Embracing everything. Yeah.
But you are uncomfortable.
I like that.
But you're comfortable being uncomfortable. But you are uncomfortable.
Okay, we obviously could
comfortable being. I'm trying to think. That's a chapter in the book. But you are uncomfortable.
If you were to give people watching or listening 3 tips just from this conversation on how they can, outside of embracing the uncomfortable, like what else can people do that are easy to implement to help them be safer, more confident, more ready to take on the world?
Okay. 3?
Yes.
Okay. First one that jumps in my mind is take care of yourself.
What does that mean? Take
care of yourself physically. I mean, work out.
Okay.
It's no excuse for not doing it. Working out could be taking a walk, a brisk walk. I call it walking with a purpose. You're doing some sit-ups, some squats, some whatever.
Burpees.
I mean, I don't know if everybody can do burpees, but doing some movement, working out. Look, if something were to happen and you. And now I ain't talking about like if you got some issues or whatever, but barring you got no issues, if something would have happened and you can't run 20 yards without falling out, that's a problem.
For the New Zealanders listening, that's about 10 meters.
Yeah, if you can't, if you can't run 10 meters or whatever, that's a problem. So you need to take care. You need to take care of yourself physically. You need to take care of yourself mentally. You need to, not be worried about everything. You need to be concerned, not frozen in fear. You need to be aware. It's all the mental part. So you got the physical part, you got the mental part. You got to be aware of stuff that's going on. Know that things can happen to you. But you're going to do everything you can to prevent those things from happening to you. And you have to be, I guess, spiritually, emotionally ready, and that comes with knowing your abilities. So hey, if anything happens, I know what to do. So take care of yourself physically, take care of yourself mentally. Take care of yourself spiritually. Now how you find out how to do those 3 things. Whether you taking come to a class like ours. Whether you're going to the gym. Whether you're going on YouTube University, finding a workout, but you need to take care of yourself. But you can't, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're making yourself an easy target for everything.
Gotcha.
And you don't want to do that.
Gotcha. Okay, number 2.
That's 3.
That was 3? All 3?
Well, no, because that was taking care of yourself physically, taking care of yourself mentally, and taking care of yourself spiritually. That was 3 things.
I like it. Thank you. Very quick. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, friends, for tuning in. If you want to find out more about Krav Maga as a self-defense, obviously you can grab DJ's book on Amazon, Self-Defense, Why Even Bother, or Jiu-Jitsu for Self-Defense, Why Even Bother, or check out KravMagaCDK.com. We have run out of time, as always. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here with you. Be good, be safe, stay tuned for next week. We will have Dinah back in the studio with us. I'm super excited. Any famous last words, my love?
No, it's good. I gotta I would say I'd go back home, but I am home, so
There we go. Okay, friends, until next week, we'll see you then.
stay safe.
Cause I am searching, don't need to look outside myself to know that I am whole. And I've been learning, made it through the darkest storms, and I'm coming to my own. And I am worthy of love. I can learn to love myself just because